how common acute renal failure is, like I said, the criteria are difficult to retain. So okay, there's a lot of good talking points within this lab set, right? So what's the acid-base status here? Or give me one comment on the acid status.
Low bicarbonate.
Okay, so what do we do next then when we see that? You see a BMP with what looks like acidosis. What do you do next?
ABG.
Before that,
Like an
you might get that.
Yeah.
So you're going to calculate the anion gap. So what is that?
21, I think. Minus.
Yeah, looks like 21, right? So sodium minus bicarb plus chloride. So, now what?
ABG. Anion gap, metabolic acidosis.
Okay. And again, you got this second-year student who's just waiting to hear some gold come out of your mouth. So what next?
I am the medical Midas.
Mud piles.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So tell me what that means.
So methanol, uremia, DK, what's that one?
It's iron.
The
Isoniazid or
Formaldehyde.
iron.
Formaldehyde. Yeah, it used to be an anticonvulsant. We don't use it anymore. So
Then
okay.
iron or INH, lactic acid, ethylene glycol, and salicylates.
Okay. Good.
Let's go.
Oh.
So how does that help us here? Because once you have a high anion gap metabolic acidosis, you better start sorting out why that is. Okay. And I agree with everything you said. I think she's probably a pre-renal case here, but there may be some other things going on too with her history, right? So what next?
I think, we know that looking at her viewing creatinine, you're worried about some type of kidney disease, or you think, well, is this the uremia that's causing her anion gap?
Yep.
Or or she could have something else that was maybe like lactic acidosis. So she hasn't eating much.
She was also on what medication?
Metformin.
Metformin. Okay, so it might give us a little higher indication to do a lactic acid. Okay.
She's diabetic, but she doesn't really look like she'd be in the range for DKA. 195 is elevated, but not. And she's also type 2, so you're less likely to have DKA with type 2 diabetic. More common to have with hyperosmolar non-ketonic.
So more than likely, it's just the renal failure. But I think you need to kind of think about what else could it be in this situation here too, right? And she takes aspirin too, right? So, and did she get confused? Did she take a bunch of aspirin? So there's a few things in the history. I think they purposely put them in here for you to kind of think about these other things too. All right. So what would you do next? You got to lactate. You're treating the acute renal failure. Anything else you do?
I mean, you could look for do the ketones, but again, I don't think the evidence really supports looking at the ketones. And I don't know what you think about that.
I think would it change what you do? I guess.
No, I mean, it would in some ways. I mean, if you did find that somehow she had high ketones, you may look at starting insulin. But again, her glucose just isn't high enough to make her worry about that.
Okay.
But you're already going to be hydrating her, which is one of the biggest things for DKA anyway. Hydration is probably the most important thing for DKA.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're going to hydrate her, maybe recheck and see where you're at. And if you find that the glucose is kind of go crazy, then you might decide to use a drip or be aggressive with the insulin. Okay.
I mean, would if this was like uremia, would giving fluids help? Would the gap close or?
More than likely. And as this creatinine improves and kidney function improves, you're going to clear that stuff out of there too. So I think hydration is going to be the first thing to do all over here. You could argue too, okay, if you can't get a great history about ingestions too, what else could you do to satisfy yourself that maybe there's not an ingestion? Oh, what?
Like a tox screen?
You could do a tox screen.
Salicylate levels.
So yeah, well,
Gotcha. So specific. You could do a salicylate level. You could even do something to check for these ethanol or ethylene glycol. How do you do that?
I think it's the ethylene glycol is like a crystal. It's a characteristic
You can.
of it.
You can also do an osmolar gap too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And what's an osmolar gap?
It's like between the calculated osmolality and like the measured, and if it's
Okay.
if it's a big difference, then you're thinking there's something else. And
I think more than 15 or 20 or
Yeah.
something like that. Then you might think that too. So yeah, this is the pretty standard thing you can see with the volume depletion and diabetic and someone on metformin, but there's some other rich things in here too. And so this potassium of 5.5, I know what you can say is, does this patient need dialysis for the potassium?
I think the volume status. So if you can probably dilute it with just normal saline.
Okay.
You could also, I mean, if you're really worried about it, you could get an EKG and see if you have, T-wave to
Okay. So you can do your EKG monitoring, you can give the fluids. If you think you have to treat this, what are the ways you're going to treat it?
insulin.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
Bicarb.
Or calcium
Calcium kind of
gluconate.
stabilizes
Yeah, calcium
the
gluconate.
electrical activity, the bicarb and the insulin and the
Could you do
dextrose.
adrenergic?
You can do
I don't think that would be
albuterol, and it's supposed to kind of help stabilize this, but I do those others first
Yeah.
because you don't necessarily want to stimulate
No.
the cardiac status here, but you can. Okay.